The views and opinions expressed on the following program may not necessarily reflect the views of the staff, management, or board of Hope Media Group and KSBJ. It's what's happening around us, in our town, suburb, city, in our community. It's Community Beat with Kim Kasi McKee on 89.3 KSBJ.
Well, hello and welcome to Community Beat, where we're keeping you tuned into the topics that are impacting our local communities and helping them thrive. I'm your host, Kim Kasi McKee, and today we're raising awareness for ways that you can become involved with children and families who are engaged in the foster care system. My guest is Genesis Elizondo, who serves as the faith-based and community engagement specialist with the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Well, hello, Genesis. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Genesis, let's begin by talking about the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, which is the overarching entity for the area that you serve. So tell us, what are some of the services that are offered through the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services?
Yes, and I will go ahead and use the acronym, which is DFPS, that stands for Texas Department of Family and Protective Services.
So will I going forward.
So DFPS is tasked with investigating allegations of and reports of abuse or neglect on children and even the elderly and disabled. And so within DFPS, there is something called Child Protective Investigations. Of course, we use the acronym CPI. And so when someone calls the hotline, the 1-800 number, then CPI, if it meets criteria, CPI is required to follow up and conduct an investigation. After an investigation's closed, it might be closed if there are no concerns. But if there are concerns, it's possible that they may refer the case to what's called family-based safety services. And that's one of the stages of service within Child Protective Services, also called CPS. Okay. So you have Child Protective Investigations, you have Child Protective Services. Family-based safety services, or FBSS, is a stage. And so that provides ongoing support for families who might have needs and where CPS may have concerns of safety for the children. So some of those services might be substance abuse treatment or therapy for the family or for the children. And it's a way for CPS to not monitor, but just support and visit the family and ensure that the goal is to address any safety concerns. And so that's another stage. Another stage of service within Child Protective Services is called conservatorship. The acronym for that is CVS. So conservatorship cases, it's kind of a stage where it's a last result. So CPS and DFPS always wants to have a least restrictive environment because it's important for families to be together. We do not want to disrupt the family unit. However, in some cases where there's serious safety concerns, they may have to do things like ask family to get involved. Like, okay, we have concerns here, but do you think you have a relative or a friend who can come check in with you guys or come stay, so that way we keep the family together, right? If that's not possible, they may even ask, okay, well, we're very concerned with this parent. Do you think this parent's willing to leave the home so that way the children can stay with the parents and stay in their home, right? With someone who they know and love. So they try to implement a lot of things. If that's not possible, maybe the mom might say, well, okay, maybe my child can go stay with mom or a family member while this issue is addressed, right? So all those things are ways that CPS tries to avoid removing the child from their home if possible, because safety is always the number one concern. But when none of those things are possible, then CPS does, or investigations as well, they might seek to remove the child from the home. And that is something that happens as a last resort to ensure child safety. And when that happens, it becomes a legal conservatorship case because a judge is involved and a judge has to make that determination whether or not the children can be removed from the home.
So what is the magnitude of children that are involved, that are part of or under the care of the DFPS?
So last year, there were over 21,000 children and youth in the foster care system. So when children are in the foster care system, it's because it's already a legal case. So,
okay.
Right. And so like these numbers are from last year, the 21,000. Some of those might be with family, staying with family, grandmother, aunt, or even a friend. And some of those might even be with their parents.
Okay.
Because the goal is always to reunify the children back to their parents. That is always the primary goal.
Sure.
However, if in some cases if that's not possible, then they might try to say, well, do you have family? Do you have friends? And then if that's not possible, then they'll say, okay, we'll look for foster homes.
Okay.
And sometimes if that's not possible, well, okay, let's try to look for possibly a residential treatment center. And maybe see if the child or youth can stay there. And in some cases, when there are no placements available, then the child or youth has to stay in a hotel, and CPS, Child Protective Services staff, stay and are responsible for their care.
Wow. So it sounds that they're going to whatever measure that's necessary to make sure that that child remains safe.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the area that you're serving, the faith-based and community engagement specialist. What does that job entail? How do you interact in the system?
So the FBCE, or faith-based and community engagement team, we have a team of 6 here in this area, which is the Houston and Greater Houston area. There are 4 specialists like myself. And so as faith-based and community engagement specialists, we work with the community to try to build partnerships and relationships. And so that could be individuals, businesses, organizations, people like yourself, like KSBJ, and faith partners are a really big part of who we work with. And so we try to engage them to connect them to our children and families. So sometimes the way we do that is by receiving donations. So like Christmas time or back to school time, that's a busy time where a lot of people will reach out and say, we want to help and donate to children or families in need. So that's one way, but also we do a lot of community education. We want to let people know, anyone who wants to know, we're happy to go and present to let them know about DFPS or Child Protective Services, or about ways they can become involved as well.
I can imagine with you being a person of faith, this is probably a great fit for you to be able to live out your faith.
It makes me extremely happy. And this was definitely a God-given thing, because I did casework for 9 years and now I've been in this current position for 1 year, and it was a God thing. I was just so blown away, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity.
Wow. So what do you enjoy most? What is it about it that you enjoy?
I love being able to work with people and connect them to the people who really need help most. And of course, it's just a blessing that I get to attend a lot of church and faith events.
Yes.
So that's just wonderful. And sometimes it's just seeing people, even from my own church yesterday, I had an event. And so I was like, oh, Pastor Paul's here. I didn't know he was going to be here at this meeting.
That's awesome.
So we get to connect with other faith partners in the community and try to join together to work together against all these challenges that are facing these kiddos.
So let's talk about an opportunity. Speaking of churches and organizations, I know that there are several initiatives that are under the umbrella of the DFPS.
Yes. So November is National Adoption Month.
Okay.
And in honor of that, we also celebrate Stand Sunday in November. And Stand Sunday is a nationally recognized day for churches and faith partners to join together and acknowledge and stand for the children and youth in the foster care system. And so Bishop Aaron Blake initiated the first Stand Sunday in 2004, when he was really bothered to know that there were children who needed placement and who needed somewhere. And he asked his church, who will stand with me for these children? And one person standing led to a movement within that church, which led to a movement within their community. And in Brown County, because this church is in Brownwood, Texas, and in Brown County, there was one point where there was more foster homes waiting placement than there were children waiting for foster homes in that particular county. And anyone who's been around or knows about the child welfare system knows that that's very rare and unlikely to happen, because there's always children waiting placement and in need of placement.
Wow. It was very moving to hear him share his own testimony and convictions. And it's amazing how one person taking a stand can impact an entire community.
Exactly. And God used him and his vision to, of course, impact that community. And now Stand Sunday, it's beyond just statewide. It's national. Churches all around the nation want to be involved and try to participate in Stand Sunday.
So let's talk a little bit about that. What happens on Stand Sunday? If churches are listening now and they're saying, Stand Sunday, adoption, foster care, how does it all come together? How can they participate in that? Or what should they expect will happen on Stand Sunday?
Sure. So I first want to say that Stand Sunday this year will be Sunday, November 12th.
Okay.
It's the second Sunday in every November is when it's celebrated. This year's November 12th. And there are various ways that churches can become involved. There's nothing too big or nothing too small to do for Stand Sunday. One of the most important things that I believe churches can do, especially on this day, is pray. If churches around the nation, the world, can commit to praying for children and families in the foster care system and in the child protective services system, I think that would be beautiful and impactful for everyone to join together on that Sunday.
That's awesome.
So that's something that my church is doing, and I'm really proud that they have committed to praying for these children at that time during Sunday service. Some churches have also brought attention to the call referenced in James 1:27 that talks about caring for orphans. So that's one way that churches can also get involved, by talking about that specifically, what's discussed in James 1:27. Something as simple also as including handouts, whether it's about DFPS or about fostering and adopting, because there are a lot of agencies in the area that help people get licensed to foster and adopt. So that's something that, in having those pamphlets or flyers, that is a way to get involved, and that's a way to participate in Stand Sunday. Even having guest speakers. Sometimes churches will have people who have fostered or have adopted speak and just talk about that. And I know there are churches who also have support groups for fostering and adoptive families, because it can be difficult to be caring for children who you're getting to know, and, just stressful, and just everything that comes along with caring for a child. Even when they're your own biological children, that's stressful. So there's just added stress, right? Mm-hmm. So support groups, having the groups meet every month, maybe that's one way that churches can get involved as well. Or also churches can host what's called Parents' Night Out to give foster and adoptive parents some times to themselves. I know some churches do that. My home church back home in Robstown, Texas, they did that recently, and it was for 3 hours. So that way they planned it in advance, so that way the parents could go on a date or just rest or do whatever they need to do.
Yes.
Right. And so also another way to become involved is to support or donate these to these children and families during holidays and birthdays. I know of a family at my home church who they adopted 5 children. Wow. So our church came together for them and did like a kind of like a baby shower, even though they were already bigger, right? Just to help support them, because that can be overwhelming when you have additional costs and just responsibilities coming up. So maybe just donate, or it doesn't have to be anything big. It can be like, we're going to give a meal to them. It's Christmas. We would like to donate this. That's a way to support and get involved. And of course, we always want to encourage fostering and adopting. And DFPS has social media too. And so I was looking at their Facebook, and because it's National Adoption Month in November, they've been promoting children. So if you look at their Facebook, you'll see they'll put the picture, and one of them said, I want a parent who will tell me they love me and that they're proud of me. Oh, so It'll give a little background on like what the children are saying. And then another one that I saw today said, I don't want to age out of the foster care system, because if they don't get placed, then they'll end up aging out and staying there till they're 18. Unless they can also choose to stay till they're 21, what's called extended foster care. Okay. Even though the goal is fostering or increasing fostering and adopting, we know that not everyone is able to foster or adopt for one reason or another. But if everyone supports these families by maybe doing one of these things or something else that I didn't say, that is a way to get involved and help and to be a part of the solution.
Sure. Well, what I love about Stand Sunday is that there are so many entry points, as you've mentioned. Obviously, as you've stated, families are in different stages of life. And, the ideal would be foster care and adoption. But to be able to pray or to be able to just learn more about what's going on in case they someday or someone they know would like to take that next step, all of these are great options. I love the idea of a parent night out for someone who has foster children. There's been a lady in my church who for years and years always had foster children. Sometimes it would be the same ones for a long time. And I will admit how we would get connected and attached to them. As a church family, they would be with her for a long time. And then sometimes all of a sudden, there will be a whole new crew. It was also a blessing, though, those times that the children could stay together, sisters and brothers. Sometimes there will be 3 from the same family. But just that opportunity to be able to join her in loving on these children, it just added so much to our church family. I have a brother who he did foster care for many years, him and his wife, until they got to a point to where the last time they had to give up a child, it was so painful that his wife said, "You know what? I can't do this anymore, so I'm going to adopt."
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Yeah, so she adopted a family of 3. And now those children are all grown and living a good life. And that's the ideal.
Exactly. That's the goal. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I think it's wonderful when people want to adopt the sibling group as they come, because it is heartbreaking to see siblings separated. They've already experienced trauma of abuse or neglect, the reason why CPS became involved to begin with. Then to further expose them to more trauma by separating them because you can't find somewhere. And sometimes I know the placement team, they work so hard, but people, they have you. It's okay to have
limitations.
Exactly. And so it's just really heartbreaking to see that. And then of course the goal is to get them adopted together, because sometimes it does happen where they are separated and then they do get adopted, and the families may or may not keep in contact. But of course, when CPS is involved, they're always going to promote that contact with sibling and family.
That's awesome. Tell us about this Care Portal. What is that all about?
Care Portal is actually another great way that people can get involved to help the children and families in the foster care system, in the CPS system, or who are in need in their community. And Care Portal is an electronic tool, and it's a way to connect churches and communities to children and families in need. So I know as far as Child Protective Services, when CPS uses it, if a caseworker goes out into a home and sees they're in the home, they have multiple children and they're all sleeping on the floor.
Okay.
So they might say, okay, we need 3 beds, right? So they can go on their phone or on the computer and submit the request to let the community know the need. And so for those churches or businesses who they call champions who are involved, Care Portal will send them an email notifying them of the need. And it's not just for everywhere. So you only get notified of the needs in your local community. Like they go by zip code, right? And so, of course, we want churches, if they see the need, to pray for this, because it gives some information about what's going on. And ideally, the goal is to get that need met. And so, of course, that is a blessing to the family. They have the need met. And then it's also an opportunity for the churches to be the hands and feet and to be there for these families when they're hurting, because they get to meet them. Because the families will sign a release of information that gives permission for these the churches or the families to go and visit them to provide that need. And it's okay to offer to pray for them. And the goal is that we want there to be support in general. So maybe they can maintain some kind of relationship or build a relationship, whether they attend that church or not. But just for the community to know there are people who care. There's people in churches, there's people in the community who want to help and be there for them.
That is excellent. So where do people go to connect with the Care Portal?
There is the website Care Portal.
Okay.
And also, I am happy to talk to anyone who wants to learn more about Care Portal. We have 2 people that we work with here in the greater Houston area, Terrence Campbell and Star Williams. They are our Care Portal stars. And so they cover all of this area. And they work really hard to try to get more churches involved. And they even work with school districts and with Child Protective Services as well to connect. And we train them together too. The Care Portal staff train churches so they know how to approach things. And then they also train the staff who are going to use Care Portal as a requesting agency as well.
Wow, this site is really amazing. It's careportal.org. And I'm looking, it says to make a difference right here, right now, in the life of a child. And all kinds of things come up. It says needs such as a bed, a car seat, rent assistance. And obviously there's someone that's making that connection for that need to be met. And so this really gives an opportunity for a business, a church, an individual to make an impact, whether or not they're adopting a child or not. There's something that they can do to impact these children's lives. So I definitely want to encourage you to go onto that site, careportal.org. If you're listening and you say, wow, what difference can I make? Well, a world of difference, a world of difference.
Exactly. You can meet the need, meet the family, and whether or not there's a relationship maintained, you know about them and you can pray for them.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine, Genesis, that of all the partners that you would engage with, the faith community must be a home run. Churches, people of faith, people who want to live out their Christian values.
Exactly. And actually the model that FBCE, or faith-based and community engagement, works with is this idea that it takes a village to raise a child. It's this idea that CPS does its part. It's responsible for caring for the children while they're in care. And we work with the community and with faith partners together, because if we all wrap around these children and families, not only will they have their needs met, but they're likely not to have to be involved in the system in the future if they have that support.
So tell us, I know that there are some different initiatives that you do through your engagement. So what might be a couple other initiatives through the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services?
So DFPS also promotes what's called Blue Sunday.
Okay.
So April is the month of child abuse prevention and awareness. And so the last Sunday in April is called Blue Sunday. And that's when we ask churches to pray for children who have been abused, and also for those who are caring for them, and the CPS caseworkers who are working with it, because it is a lot for everyone involved. The children often are traumatized. They've been hurt in some way or neglected. And it's hard for the people, even caring for them, knowing this. It's heavy. And then the workers that are working around this. And so we want and need prayer specifically for this population. In April is what we ask for Blue Sunday.
Speaking of prayer, Genesis, what are some ways our audience can be praying for you and your team, the faith-based community and engagement specialist out there, or any of the folks who are working? I know for a few years, my husband worked for CPS. And so I knew well how to pray for him. I saw firsthand some of those stresses, and bless his heart, Genesis, many times I would tell him, you can't tell me about some of the things you're seeing and experiencing, just because my heart, was just on the floor. It was very difficult. But he's strong and was able to do what he did. But I know there was always prayers offered for him in his role. And so how can we be praying for you and your team?
We appreciate that. Thank you for asking. And we want to be productive and for God to guide us to the right places, to the right people, and make the right connections, because ultimately the goal is for these families and children who are hurting to receive some type of help and some type of support. And so we really want to know about more places, and we're so open to trying to meet, whether it's an individual, a group, or business, or church. We want to meet with them and let them know of any ways that they can get involved with DFPS children and families. I know one of the groups we worked with not too long ago was a Girl Scout group. It was Yellow Rose Girl Scout Troop, I believe, and they did their own service project, and it was their idea. And they collected hygiene items for what's called kinship families. So in CPS, kinship is a placement where children are placed with a family a family, a relative or a friend maybe.
Okay.
Right? So it's not foster care. There was someone they know.
I see.
So the Girl Scout troop on their own decided to collect hygiene items so that way they can give them to these specific families.
How nice. Well, with the time that we still have, once again, just give us a snippet about Stand Sunday, when it is, and how churches or individuals can connect to be a part of it.
Yeah, so Stand Sunday this year will be Sunday, November 12th. And Stand Sunday is a day that's nationally recognized for churches and faith partners to join together and stand for children and youth in foster care who are in the system. And there's so many ways to get involved, but we really ask that churches that day, please join in prayer. Let's all pray together on that Sunday. And we know God's going to hear us. And I believe that it pleases God to know that his children are coming together. It breaks his heart to see these children hurting. And so I think that it makes him happy to know that his children are taking care of each other like that, and that we're coming together and pleading on their behalf.
That's awesome. And I believe I heard you say that they can invite guest speakers to come to speak to their congregations. They can also consider ministering on James 1:27, which is kind of the scriptural theme.
They can also do things like if they are aware of any foster or adopting agencies that are nearby, they can have handouts there. They can ask one of us, a DFPS or CPS, faith-based and community engagement specialist, to go speak. I'm doing that at a church on Stand Sunday as well. So that way we can let them know of ways they can get involved. They can also do things like host support groups in their churches for adoptive and foster families. They can do things like donate to foster and adoptive families during holidays or birthdays to help relieve a little bit of that financial stress. And also they can do things like look at careportal.org or sign up for Care Portal so that way they can connect with these families and children that are in need as well.
Awesome. As always, Genesis, it's always a delight to talk with you and hear your passion for what you do to serve these vulnerable children and their families, and the connections that you make, the bridge that you are to the churches, to help churches to become involved. And so our prayers will certainly be with you and your team, and praying that Stand Sunday will be a blessing, not only here in Texas, but all over the nation.
Yes, and thank you so much. It's such a blessing and a great opportunity to be here. We really appreciate it.
Genesis, please tell us, how can our listeners reach you if they'd like to have some questions or more conversation about this?
There are 4 faith-based and community engagement specialists here in the Houston and greater Houston area, and we're all assigned to cover different areas. So if you contact me, I would be glad to help or to point you into the right direction of one of the specialists who can help you. And I can be reached at area code 737-249-8177.
Okay, go ahead and give that one more time.
Sure. It's 737-249-8177.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Genesis. To learn more about Stand Sunday, go to standsunday.com. That's standsunday.com. And again, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you'll tune in again next week for another edition of Community Beat. I'm Kim Kasi McKee on 89.3 KSBJ.
Thanks for joining us for Community Beat with Kim Kasi McKee. Join us every Saturday morning at 5:30 on 89.3 KSBJ.